IAP, so for those of you who are not as familiar with lists or are just feeling a little overwhelmed about lists and buttons and everything, this is going to be a very brief tutorial on how to get a random item from a list using a button. So I have gone ahead and actually set up a lot of this code for you because a lot of it is stuff that you know how to do in pieces. You don't need to write it all again. So I'm going to walk through what I've given you. But please make sure that you have clicked the link from your work and you have duplicated it so that you have a copy that you can work into. Remember, you only see duplicate when you're logged in, and you might also want to save. I would strongly recommend that as I go through and talk about what each thing does, you leave some comments in the code. So I am not going to do that, but it is always, always within your power to leave comments to help yourself later. So let's start with the three variables I've given you, and then we're kind of going to jump back and forth from there. So I made a variable for the button, and if I were leaving comments, the note that I would leave is this is the variable that holds the button, so that's what that does. I have also made a list, and I was super lame. I just called it the list. Like, it's such a stupid name. You guys could name things better. And I want things from this list to show up as text on the screen, so I made a variable called the text, and I gave it question marks. Now, the button, the list, the text all have the in front of them for two reasons. One, I think treating variables like nouns is a good idea, but two, text is already a reserved word from the computer, as is button sometimes, so I just wanted to make sure that I am not going to confuse the computer or get weird errors when I don't want to spend my time or energy thinking about those weird errors. So I made these three things. This is what they do. Part of why I needed to make the text is because there's always text on my screen right now. It's just showing up as some question marks. So if I were to hit play right now, I get the background, I get my text, which is the variable, the text, whatever's stored in that variable, and then the location of that variable. Now I've also gone ahead and set up my button. So in setup on line 7, I turned the button, the variable, into something that holds this button I created. And I moved its position so I like where it is on the page. And then I also said that when I press this button, it should run this function called tester clicked. Now this is a callback function that I've written at the bottom of the page, and I have started like the bones of the definition, but you'll notice there's nothing in there right now, and that's primarily what we're going to fill out together. So my goals for this function are that when I click the button, it should pick a random item from the list, turn the text into random item from list. Those are my two big goals. So I'm going to give myself some space. Let's go ahead and code this out. So the first thing I need to do is make sure I get a random value from the list. So I'm going to say let random value. That's the name of this new variable that I'm making just inside this function. And that is going to be equal to a random value between 0 and the length of the list. So between 0 and the list.length. Now there's a problem with just saying this. Some of you might recall from the first time you ever saw random that random returns any random number, including like random really specific decimal values, which is wild. I don't know if any of these have random decimal values. I know that lists go 0, 1, 2, 3. None of those have decimals in them. So I need to turn this into an integer. So I am writing int parenthesis, parenthesis, I'm wrapping this up in parenthesis, and then my random 0 to the list.length is all inside of there. Now, once I have this random number, I can use that to pick something from my list. So on the next line, I am going to say that the text should now become whatever the list, something from the list, and the thing from the list is the random choice. Remember, we always call, random value. We always call list items as the name of the list and then usually a number here. So like putting in 1 would return things. Well, I don't want it to always say things. I want it to show whatever the random choice was. So random value holds a number. It holds a random number between 0 and 3. That's what I did on this line here. And I am plugging that in so that it will pick a random one every time. So let's see how this works. If I hit play now, and I start pressing my button, I get the word whatever. If I press it again, I get IDK, hello, whatever, IDK. I could keep pressing, oh, I got things. It flashed by really fast. But I now get all of the different options from this selector button. I hope that this is helpful to you guys. It's not like a huge thing that we are doing here. It's just a little baby piece, but I know that we just combined kind of one thing you're not as familiar with and one thing you just learned, and I realized we might have needed some clarification of how to mush them together. If you still have questions, you want to talk this through, you need help, please come to office hours or shoot me an email or a Slack message, and as always, you can always rewatch, pause, whatever, to help you out with the things I just covered. Thanks, guys!